What's happening, unstoppable people? Welcome to another podcast. We are here today with Matt J. Moore, Bitcoin cryptocurrency expert. You're probably saying, hey, Ralph, why you having this? Because I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not going anywhere. So it's my job to educate us. If I'm getting some new information and some education, I'd like to educate you. So Matt, welcome, man. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can tell, I'm always representing my my Bitcoin radio show.
As you should be. As you should be.
I know it works out really well. People are like, "Can I scan your QR code?" And it's like an instant business card. So it's been.
I have to get that QR code on my t-shirts.
Yeah, man, it works great. People are always like, "Can I scan your shirt?"
Matt, let's jump right into it, man. Cryptocurrency. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, ladies and gents. It's not. We can fight it. We can say it's not going anywhere. So you might as well be educated on it and understand what it is. And I have zero understanding of it. So that's why Matt is here today. Matt, Where did it start? Where did it come from? What's going on with it? Let's start there. How did this start?
So the underlying technology for things like cryptocurrency is called distributed ledger technology. The most commonly known one is blockchain technology.
Okay.
And the first cryptocurrency was Bitcoin. And Bitcoin originated a guy by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, which is a alias that he went by online, who was a developer, programmer. He basically put together some existing technology like SHA-256, which is an algorithm. I used cryptography. And he really put together a masterpiece when it came to a digital form of money. And the reason why I say masterpiece is because for the first time in human history, what Satoshi Nakamoto was able to do was to create a system that could not just be a payment network and a form of money, but also create scarcity and originality in a digital world, which is really hard for people to wrap their mind around because we're so used to copying and pasting digital information, and we haven't really asserted true value to digital information because it can be reproduced so easily and so fast. So that's really kind of the game changer in all of this is digital scarcity and originality. And I might add is, it kind of started off as just this experiment, this open source code software that was distributed across the internet. A cypherpunk community started to utilize it and started to play around with it. And, Satoshi Nakamoto said in some of his writings, he said, you guys might want to hang on to some of this in case it becomes something. But the guy shortly disappeared after a couple of years of working with this community of developers and cryptographers, and people weren't really concerned about who the creator of Bitcoin was because it was open source code. So any developer could go through it and look through it and see how it works and make sure everything's kosher. So you could literally look at the inside workings of it. It's kind of like I make the equivalent of geometry. I don't necessarily need to know who created geometry.
Yeah.
I just know that geometry works.
Okay.
So it's apart from its creator.
So the question is it currency? Is it money? Can I spend it?
Right.
Does it help me purchase freedom?
Right. So that question is a loaded question because most people don't realize that there is a difference between money and currency.
Okay.
There actually is a difference.
Okay.
And I can kind of break that down. But the key difference between what makes something a currency and a form of money are really these attributes, because money and currency both share all of these attributes except for one. And that is medium of exchange. They both share that. Unit of account, portable, durable, divisible, and fungible. Basically means it's interchangeable. But the one characteristic that money has that currency doesn't have is a store of value. And what I mean by that is that ability to store your purchasing power over a long period of time without having to lose purchasing power. That's really what creates something a good form of money. What we have today, we've been programmed to believe that currency is money. But currency is not limited. Currency is a horrible store of value, as many people could testify.
Okay.
Over the last 2 years, 40% of all of the dollars in existence today were created in the last 2 years. And so inflation, money printing, all of this stuff is very bad for people's well-being long term. People get excited because of free money, but what they realize is once that velocity of money picks up in the economy, that money buys them a whole lot less.
Okay.
Or currency. See, even I will butcher currency and money because I'm so used to using the word money.
Yeah. Can people buy things with cryptocurrency? Can I go to the car dealer and buy my car with cryptocurrency?
Yeah, there's plenty of places you can use your cryptocurrency to buy goods and services. I was just in Miami for the Bitcoin conference, and it's a big cryptocurrency ecosystem down there. Lots of restaurants will accept it as a form of payment. You can go to overstock.com and buy stuff. You could buy a Tesla with it. AMC theaters.
Of course you can buy it. Of course you can buy a Tesla with it.
Right, yeah. You can buy. I mean, so there's plenty of things. I mean, you could, like I said, you could buy your movie ticket at AMC with cryptocurrency. But I actually, because of the stage of adoption that we're in, I actually discourage using it as a form of payment. And the reason being is I don't want to be that guy who spent 10,000 Bitcoins on 2 pizzas just to realize years later that I could have been a multimillionaire if I had just hang on to that money and not spent it. And the explanation for that is when something like Bitcoin is becoming a form of money, money goes through an evolutionary process. And what we're experiencing with Bitcoin is this emergence of a free market form of money, where first it's a collectible, then it moves into this store of value phase, which is what we've entered in with Bitcoin. Then it becomes a medium of exchange once there's enough people who have adopted it, and then it becomes a true measure of wealth. So we've got a little bit more time before we start seeing it used on a more frequent basis for a medium of exchange.
So where are we in that stage? Are we getting closer for it to being a true measure of wealth?
We're probably looking at maybe another 20 or 30 years before it's like a true measure of wealth. I mean, I think, people like I myself who've been in the space, I already see it as a true measure of wealth. I don't measure my wealth in dollars. I measure it in Bitcoin. But I think when I talk about the entire globe getting to a point where they understand these concepts, I think we do have a handful of years. I mean, the analogy that I make is it's 1997 and people are starting to use Netscape, and people don't really, they still have the question of, is email internet? Is the internet email? How does it work? Do I write to it? So yeah, we're early in it still.
Yeah. Because somebody's saying, Ralph, Matt, can I pay my rent with Bitcoin? Can I pay my mortgage?
Yeah, I mean,
somebody's asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I'm a landlord. I've given people the option to pay me in cryptocurrency. In fact, I've had one tenant pay me in Bitcoin, just because that's what I would prefer to be paid in, because it is an appreciating asset as we go through this evolutionary process. But again, I feel sorry for the people who are paying me in Bitcoin. They should not be paying me in Bitcoin right now, because they are losing a significant amount of wealth over a long period of time.
Wow. All right. So I'm starting to gain a little traction. I came in here and I wanted to do this interview with zero knowledge of anything. So sometimes I find myself doing interviews and calling myself an expert in the area, but I have to admit I know zero about this. But it's something I want to get involved in. I'm the guy that has a little bit of money at robin's nests and watching my Twitter stock climb up through the roof because our buddy Elon wants to buy it. And look, Pastor, I'm a pastor of a church, but I'm not ashamed to tell you I threw some dollars at the cannabis company. Medical cannabis. Though. I'm not, I don't use it, but I see trends.
Exactly. I love it.
But I want to, because I know I try to, I try to not predict the future, but I try to look at patterns. I try to look at patterns. The pattern of our future is in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. What's the other one? Ethereum?
Yeah, there's Ethereum. There's a handful of other, there's thousands of cryptocurrencies. And if you were to ask me, 90% of those are going to fail. So the plays in the right ones, I think, will go really well for people because it is just like in the .com boom. Even though we're not buying into companies per se, you're buying into networks. You're still going to have the same effect. Where in the .com boom, you had a lot of people. You had Pets.com, Amazon.com, and if
Right, right.
if you made the right bets, you're probably sitting pretty. During all of that. So I always make the analogy: the amount of opportunity in this space is far outweighs the disruption that took place with the internet. I mean, crypto is going to do way more, and the reason why I say that is most of the money in the .com boom was American money, and the top of that bubble was about $6.7 trillion in market capitalization. And right now, cryptocurrency as a whole, you're sitting at around $2 trillion in market cap, and it's global money.
Yeah.
So it's going to make the .com boom look like a picnic.
Yeah. I kind of figured it would because now I think probably last spring, I'm listening to the radio or podcast, and they start talking about filing, claiming your Bitcoin and your taxes. No, and I said, "Oh, they're going to tax it. That means it ain't going anywhere."
Right. Yeah.
And they go. So, all right, how wealthy does one need to be? Let's get to Bitcoin exclusively and specifically because that's what you do. That's who you are. How does one need to be wealthy to get involved with Bitcoin? Like, what kind of wealth does a person need? Does the young man, young lady who's just how much do they need just to get in?
Well, to answer that question, you could start as small as $1, or you could start as one full Bitcoin, which if I were to look at the price right now, I think is sitting around $40,000.
So one Bitcoin is $40,000, but we can buy that coin.
You can buy a fraction. So in other words, each Bitcoin is divisible by 8 decimal points. So the smaller unit of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. And a lot of the slang in the industry is, stack sats, which is short for Satoshi. And each, since it's divisible by 8 decimal points, I believe it's 100 million Satoshis that make up a Bitcoin. So it's obviously way more divisible than a dollar or any form of other currency.
Okay.
You literally could start, with $1, or you could start with $40,000.
Really?
Yeah.
So I could take my little bit of change out of Robin's nest and put it all in the Bitcoin.
You could, absolutely. There's no barrier to entry.
Now, what is the difference between the regular stock market, Bitcoin? Like what are pros and cons? Talk to us about that.
So, because the market capitalization for cryptocurrency is significantly smaller than a lot of your traditional markets, the volatility in the space is more, but people actually, I think, should celebrate the volatility because that's how you make money. A lot of people will say diversify, protect yourself. And a lot of people will diversify their assets and they don't like volatility quite as much when they're trying to protect their assets. But if they're trying to grow their wealth, volatility can actually work in your favor. And despite its 30 to 50% drops in price on average, year to year, Bitcoin has doubled. And so if you take a 30,000 foot view from the last 13 years, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset over the last decade. And I was having a debate on public television with a financial advisor saying he had a fiduciary responsibility to protect his clients. And I said, well, sir, excuse me, but you have a fiduciary responsibility to at least provide 1% exposure to your clients to the best performing asset in the world over the last decade. I said, it's kind of irresponsible not to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm writing this down, man, because I need these notes.
You're good. You're good.
The biggest and best performing. You guys hear that? The biggest and best performing asset of how long? Of
last decade.
Of the last decade. And so, again, I don't want to be the guy who missed it because of ignorance. We're both believers, and we know that the Bible says that my people suffer. Why?
Yep.
They don't know. Lack of knowledge. Yes, we believe in biblical principles. For the believers that are listening or watching the podcast, we believe it. We exercise it. God has blessed it. But I also believe that God wants us to be in the know, and there are other ways God wants to continue to bless us. And I just don't
Amen.
wanna be left out, man. When it 20 years from now, you know, and
Well,
I'm
it's funny you bring that up because, I myself truly believe that this technology and this democratization of monetary policy and money itself will play a significant and important role in what I call a great wealth transfer that's getting ready to take place. And I've had many prophetic people that I know and that I follow say that cryptocurrency is going to play a part in bringing large sums of wealth to the church.
yeah,
And so, that's why I do the radio show, and that's why I put it on a podcast platform. That's why I go and teach Chamber of Commerce and lawmakers. Like, this is stuff that we need to know about, because I feel like Christians can often, and this is not a bash or anything, it's just a criticism, which is I think we tend to put our head in a hole and
yeah.
ignore things that we don't understand. When in reality, we should have a mindset of curiosity.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not being critical. We do that,
Yeah,
The Lord will work it out, but He's going to work it out through. Get in the know. He is going to work it out. And I have to say this, and if you listen to the podcast, you know the deal anyway. To the believers, me and Matt were joking about this before we came on. This is not the mark of the beast. This is not. This is not.
right.
This is not the mark of the beast. All right. Matt said something early on. He said, Pastor, listen, to receive the mark, you have to deny Christ. Neither one of us
Yeah,
are
exactly.
denying Christ. We're just telling you the deal. We're kind of giving you an insight of where monies are going and where you're going to have to um, at least have some understanding
Right.
of of this and being you ought to have understanding of all things so you can join the conversation at least.
Yeah, and I would say, it really helps people to understand the problem before they start understanding cryptocurrency, because
Yeah.
it's easier for them to understand the solutions and the problems that cryptocurrency is trying to solve. If people really knew the darkness and the Luciferian roots of the current fiat money system,
Yeah.
I think they would feel a little bit different than what's happening in this emerging market of cryptocurrency. I mean, within any system, whether it's a business, whether it's a government, whether it's any kind of entity, there's always good players and bad players.
Yeah.
And I think, money is one of those conversations that we just don't have a conversation about on a regular basis, because it's seen as taboo sometimes to,
Yeah.
oh, don't talk about money, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. And in reality, money is a representation of our time, labor, energy, and freedom that we use on an economic scale. And
Yeah.
to know that you can protect yourself by utilizing the right form of money, I think is very important, because if the type of money that you're using is compromised, then your life, your energy, your freedom, your life force is compromised. You essentially are
Yeah.
a slave.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to leave a legacy. It's not just for me. I got some folks coming up behind me. I want to leave a legacy so they don't have to. They can carry on with their life's purpose without having to worry about money or currency.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my job as the family patriarch, to leave them something so they can be about their purpose. So many of us die without reaching purpose because we work for 30 years in a place that really is out of our lane. We just accepted it because it pays the mortgage. We get a little pension. We get a gold watch at the end, and we don't leave anybody anything. He lived, he died, and that was it. All right, let's get back to this Bitcoin. Let's get back. I want to invest. Okay, so say I take my little, um, I come to you, and I'm making this public because you were the first guy to kind of give me some insight on this. When I do this, which will be very shortly, I'm getting down with you, Matt. I'm finding your website.
Sure.
You're gonna take Ralph on as a client and say, don't put it there. Let's put it here. You know.
Right.
Um, so so you said a person can invest in a dollar. So what does that look like? They come to your website, mattjmoore.com, right? Come to your
Yeah.
website with a dollar or $2. What happens with that?
So typically, when I consult people, I'm actually not a money manager, but I will teach people how to fish. So
Okay.
I won't take somebody's money personally, and I mean, obviously, I get paid for my time, but
Yeah.
I won't take their money and invest it myself. In fact, I want to teach people how to be their own custodian, how they can be responsible for their own financial freedom.
Yeah.
Um, and some people like that, some people don't. But the easiest way that you can do it is setting up an exchange account with a third party that is basically offering to take your cash, turn it into cryptocurrency, and allow you to deposit into your own wallet. There's plenty of services in America that offer that, whether that be a physical ATM in some kind of gas station or mall, whether it be an
Really?
exchange
Wait,
that's
let's
just.
pause. You said that kind of fast. An ATM.
There are ATMs. So here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's plenty of Bitcoin ATMs around the city.
Wow.
You can go and put physical cash in it, and as long as you've got a mobile wallet on your phone, you can scan your wallet address, and the ATM will deposit cryptocurrency into that mobile wallet after you've put the cash in. So you can do a transaction that way. The transaction fees are a little bit pricier to do it that way.
Yeah.
But the cheapest way is to probably most likely use an exchange.
Now, how do I know I'm gaining wealth or gaining traction as I buy Bitcoin? Like in the market? You can kind of watch it go up and down. You can say, "Wow, my share, I bought it at $10, is now up to $57." You can kind of
Yeah.
watch that go happen.
Yeah. So regardless of what kind of wallet you have,
Mm.
or whether you're just strictly using an exchange account, they will actually have the price charting within the app itself, and you will see your cryptocurrency and dollar equivalent in value represented within the application itself, depending on what it's doing minute by minute. So you can actually watch it in real time, but a lot of people will go crazy if they sit there and watch their accounts all day
Yeah, I
long.
noticed that, and I keep shouting now. I'm not shouting now. I'm just keep talking about Robin's Nest. Robin's Nest, if you listen, you owe me some money. Giving you free press globally right about now. So is Robin's Nest would be that third that
Yeah,
third.
so Robin's Nest would be like a third party.
All right. So I go to Robin's Nest. I take my little bit chump change in Robin's Nest, right? I I take it out and I kind of transfer it over into Bitcoin.
Yeah, you can do that by again doing physical cash at an ATM. You can link a bank account to an exchange account. You could open up Cash App, and they give you the ability to buy Bitcoin right through Cash App. I believe
Really?
yeah, PayPal as well. And then even here locally in Tulsa, there's a bank that was the first one in the country to offer cryptocurrency custodial services and buying and selling with their bank. So you could actually have your checking account here and your cryptocurrency portfolio here on their app, and you could literally buy and sell with their application. So even banks realize that this is the future, that if they don't start offering some kind of custodial or buying and selling feature within this space, they're probably going to go extinct because go ahead. I know you had a question there.
No, let me go back. Yeah, and I'm just glad you said all that. So let me go back to my original because I start going off on the other stuff on the ATMs. How does a person watch their wealth? How can they monitor it? Like I can see my wealth grow at the. How do I know my wealth is growing? I'm putting in daily. I'm putting in weekly. I talked to somebody earlier, and they were like, "Yeah, man, we were given the advice to kind of put in, buy daily or buy weekly, buy it weekly. It's like the stock market; it goes up and down rather than just take a grand and throw it in there."
Right.
Even putting in. So how do I know that that's really growing? And if I need to get to it, how do I how do I get to it?
Yeah, so when whether you have a wallet that's on your phone or whether you're using an exchange account, uh, however you've linked payments to these accounts, whether it be through a bank account, debit card, whatever, you can buy, and then in your account balance, it'll show your cryptocurrency, the dollar value, and based off of what it's trading in the market at every minute, the price fluctuates, and you can
Yeah.
monitor it, you can watch it. Like even though cryptocurrency is not like stocks, you can watch it like stocks.
Okay.
So the applications that you have on your desktop or on your mobile device act a lot like something like a Robinhood or or some other kind of platform where people would buy and sell stocks
Yeah.
and follow
Yeah.
the wealth
Yeah.
and the growth of it. So yeah,
Exactly.
do I check my wealth in how it's doing every day? Yeah, but I don't sit there and watch it every minute.
Yeah.
But there's Did I answer your question there, or am I still kind of?
No, you did. You did. I think you did. My listeners are sharp. They understood. I'm just not grasping it like I should. All right. So
Oh yeah,
Bitcoin, right? I mean, so is it one thing? Because over at I keep calling it Robin's Nest. It's Robin Hood. Robin's Nest is something completely different over here in Jersey.
right.
But Robin Hood, like I said, you can see the companies. Bitcoin is not a company.
Yeah, it's not a company, but it's kind of like trading. Again, the reason why it's kind of weird for people to understand is it's not a company, but it's also not just a form of money, because you could say the forex markets, where people are trading currencies based off
Yeah.
of different valuations. So cryptocurrency acts very similar to that, in which you're just watching the value and the price appreciation of something fluctuate, because the open market is trading back and forth.
Okay.
Somebody's willing to sell it at this price, and somebody's willing to buy it at this price. So, yeah, you measure it a lot like you would watch stocks or forex trading, but it's just an entirely different asset.
Yeah, yeah. Now, guys, he has a radio show. What's your radio show? Where can they find it?
So KRMG here locally in Tulsa, which is 102.3 FM. We're Sundays every 5 to 6, but I populate it on every major podcast platforms like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify. So I try to get it out there.
Matt J. Moore.
Yes, yeah. So if you go to mattjmoore.com, you can find all the details on all of that.
I just wanted to say that because they might have some questions for you later on.
Yeah.
What is the first? I'm trying to get some free advice from you today, and you and I are going to work together after this. What's the first piece of advice you would give to somebody coming to you? I have another question too, but somebody coming to you, first piece of advice when it comes to, what would you say? I'm like, all right, Matt, got $300, man. I got $300.
Yeah. So first piece of advice is get off zero. Basically means put skin in the game, because the moment that you put skin in the game, you're going to have interest in learning how it works. And even though I don't tell people to do exactly what I do, and it's not because I don't believe in my advice. It's more so I want people to sleep well at night, and because I'm not legally a financial advisor, I always tell people, listen, this is what I'm doing, but before you start going, head deep into this, you need to really do some homework, because people can really get either discouraged, or they can lose a lot of money because they don't know what they're doing. And so financial advisors can't really help you with this stuff. This is not a regulated industry yet, and I have financial advisors send people my way all the time because they can't help them buy or sell cryptocurrencies. So learning how to use your own wallet, learning how to be your own custodian, how the technology works. I think all these things are important, and you don't have to be a tech genius to figure out the basics of this stuff. I've got reading and videos people can watch, because you just got to be smart.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, I'm looking at savings account versus purchases in Bitcoin. And I got young people listening to this, man. Listen, I call them young people, but they're my children and their age. They're not kids. They're in their 30s and late 20s, who really don't see the value in a traditional savings account.
Right. And I would actually advise against it too. Not because I don't believe in saving. It's just because the way the monetary system works right now, savers are losers. Because inflation, you will not beat inflation with a traditional savings account based off of the rate of inflation and how the system creates money today. You'd be lucky to get 1% or 2%. God forbid, on a traditional, savings account or CD or something like that. Whereas in cryptocurrency, you can not only see 200% returns a year, but you can also do what they call stable coins, which is like a dollar equivalent, and you can earn anywhere from 6 to 10% interest on these quote unquote digital savings accounts. And the regulators are actually up in a tizzy right now about some of this stuff, because these companies that are offering these solutions in this new monetary system are essentially outcompeting the banks. That there's no way the banks can offer a true, interest rate that can preserve your purchasing power over a long period of time.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking in the realm of organizations. Organizations should be buying some Bitcoin or
Right.
and
Oh, they are. They are. There's plenty of publicly traded companies that have put Bitcoin on their balance sheet to fight
yeah,
inflation.
yeah.
MicroStrategies being one of them, being the largest holder, Tesla as well. And so,
Everybody, Elon Musk has Bitcoin, and
he does have
you're sitting home still arguing with yourself about it. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so what I think people are realizing is they've got to take drastic measures in order to survive the economic situation that we're in. Because even though inflation is at roughly 8.5% based off of the standard CPI, the way that we measure inflation, if we actually measured it the way that we did in the 80s, inflation would actually be closer to 15 to 20%. And there's no way that the Federal Reserve can hike interest rates high enough in order to combat the inflation. So it's essentially going to be a runaway inflation situation because they'd have to hike interest rates higher than 8.5% in order to control the situation. But if they were to raise interest rates that high, you're talking about not only a deep recession, but a depression, a complete collapse in the financial markets. And so the only way out of this situation, which every fiat currency ends in the same manner if you study monetary history, which is hyperinflation. So we're looking at a potentially a Venezuelan situation, although the dollar will be the last one out of all of the fiat currencies to most likely suffer this fate, still losing 8 to 10% of your purchasing power a year is not fun for anybody.
No, it's not. It's not. Man, I tell you, you have really educated us today. I wanted to ask you about NFTs. There's another. What do you know about NFTs, man? It's another thing I'm hearing people talk about, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got to join this conversation.
Right. Yeah. NFTs are slightly different than your traditional cryptocurrencies. They utilize the same technology, which is blockchain technology. NFT stands for non-fungible token, which basically means that there's only one or just a few of these. And you can either have it represent a digital asset, like let's say a piece of artwork, or you can have it represent a real world item. And so essentially what you're doing with an NFT is, and I always make this analogy, I could go to a museum and I could take a picture of the Mona Lisa. But just because I took a picture of the Mona Lisa doesn't mean that I have the real authenticative proof that I have the real one. And so when that piece of artwork goes up for sale, you need the credentials and the authorized information to show that you are the real owner and that this is an original. So what NFTs are doing is it's taking blockchain technology and creating a unique identifier that sits on this distributed ledger. And so when you as a person either own a digital piece of artwork or maybe a real world item, you can prove to the community, to the free market, to whoever you're dealing with, that you are the true owner of this asset because you have the private key. You're able to make the signature on this transaction, and so through a cryptographic means, you can show that you are the real owner.
Wow. Yeah. I'm gonna have you come back. We're gonna talk about some NFTs too when you come back, guys. Listen. You're just starting. If you just jumped on this podcast and you listen to other episodes, maybe you caught this one in the middle, whatever the case may be. We're talking about Bitcoin, to my cryptocurrency. We're talking about the importance of being in the know and getting involved with it now. That's the type of programming I've tried to bring you at the Unstoppable Podcast. Get in there now. Young people, old people alike, wherever you are in this journey of life, get involved in it. It's not going anywhere. It's safer than a savings account. He said savers are losers. I didn't say it.
Hey, listen, again, it's not because I have a thing against savings. I love savings.
MattJMoore.com. He's an expert on this stuff.
Yeah.
Man, you just rocked somebody's world with saying that, man. But I get what you meant. And he said it. And everything we're talking about, he's talking to you out of love. He's talking to you out of this is where you want to be in the next 20 years. This is where you want to be. This is where you want to be. Matt, they can find you at mattjmoore.com. Matt, how do they start a relationship with you? Just there on the website?
Yeah. Send me a message on the website. Follow me on social media. You can reach out to me multiple ways. I love having these conversations and just kind of sharing what I think the future is going to look like.
And you will point them in the right direction as far as their what did you call it? A third party? You called it something.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways you can get into the crypto space, and what I specialize in is holding people's hands and basically telling them, hey, you want to consider this, don't do this. It's because I've been in the space for 6 years, and I've seen a lot of people really get hurt because they did the wrong things.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be that sounding board for people, so that way they can feel a little bit more comfortable getting their feet wet.
Yeah. Because like anything else, guys, you get in it wrong, get around the wrong people, it can hurt you. It can hurt you. But this is where the future's going. This is it, guys. This is it. It's not going anywhere. You know how you complain about your kids being on the cell phone? Cell phones ain't going anywhere. They're not. They're not. So just reach them that way. You know what I'm saying? So gamers are not going anywhere. Just reach them there. Just meet them there. This is not going anywhere. Just be a part of it and let it be something positive in your life and be well versed on it. Man, thanks for your time, man. And thank you for giving me some understanding, man, this last 30 or so minutes, man. Like I said, when we get off air, I'm definitely reaching out to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's mattjmoore.com. The name of your company is Matt Moore.
Yeah.
Matt J. Moore. I like his t-shirt. If you're watching the video, if we have the video up, look at the t-shirt. It says, ask me about Bitcoin. And he has this little, what's that? The QR, what's it called? QRC?
Yeah, my website.
Yeah, website right there. Matt is full of knowledge, full of energy. You don't seem to be the guy that's going to keep secrets from those of us who have inquiring minds about this, man.
No, this is a calling. I want to save people from the sinking Titanic, which is the monetary system that we're in, because the rules of the game have changed, and if you don't know why the game has changed, you can't win.
Yeah. Matt, thanks for being on the program, guys. Thanks for listening to the Unstoppable podcast. My name is Ralph Graves Jr. Until next time, let's be unstoppable together. See you now.